What's going on, everybody? Bleach curing or bleach bathing your dead base rock before you ever get it ready to go into your saltwater aquarium is by far the easiest way that you're going to be able to make sure that your rock is perfectly clean and lacking any pesky organics that you don't want to go into your tank. And in today's video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. All right, so there's a couple of things that we need to talk about before we get into the actual directions for how to do this. The live rock that you're going to be doing this with is if you got some big heckin' chunker pieces of live rock like this that came out of some tank and it wasn't cleaned, a bunch of organics dried onto that rock or something like that, much like the rock that I'm showing you on the screen right now that came out of my 210-gallon tank and was not cleaned. I'm not even dealing with this rock. This rock was a big problem, so it's just going to go in the trash. But if you got rock out of a tank like that and you want to make sure that it's good to go, this is the way to do it. If you get good, clean live rock from a nice source and there aren't any algae or any pests like fermented snails or anything like that on the rock, you're not going to want to do this because this is going to kill everything in those rocks. And that would render your good, expensive live rock dead. So don't do that. So that's basically the disclaimer for this video, and there are only a few things that you need to get the job done. You're going to need some kind of container. I've got a plastic food grade 55-gallon barrel here that I'm going to be using. I've only got 3 gallons of bleach. The general rule for this is 1 gallon of bleach for every 10 gallons of water. Now that depends heavily on how nasty your rock is and how strong of a bleach bath you want to do. As you can see, the rocks that I'm going to be using, I've got a bunch more than this, but the ones that I'm going to be using, they're white, they're clean. I think these might even be Marco rocks, but I'm not 100% sure, but they basically means that they've already been cleaned. However, I don't know the history of these rocks, so we're going to do the bleach bath and make them good. And really the only other thing that you need to get this process started is a flow pump of some kind. You don't want that water just sitting there stagnant in the barrel. You want it moving around a good bit, but you don't have to heat it. You don't have to run air stones or anything like that. And for this first step, which I'm about to show you, all you need is tap water. Now, one of the things I like to do when I'm doing this is I go ahead and put my pump down in the bottom of the drum. I would rather it be down there, moving the water from the bottom up to the surface, than the other way around, forcing organics to just stay down at the bottom of the tank. This isn't a, absolute requirement, but it's a good idea. And then we're just going to take our rock. This rock is so crazy light, it's ridiculous because it's so porous. We're just going to take that rock, and we're just going to set it down in there like that. Now, I know it's really hard to see, but one of the things that you can do with this is you can try to leave openings under the rocks where the water can flow through all this stuff. It just helps a little bit. It doesn't make or break it if you're not able to do that, but being able to do that definitely helps the water move around and get to everywhere we need it to get to. The sort of mindset that I have when I'm doing this is that I kind of want to put the rocks in the drum very much the way that I would put them in an aquarium, just for water flow purposes, really. One thing that I really like is I have a ton of these little flat pieces like this old coral skeleton and whatnot. I'm going to be able to use these to bring them off of the rock structure in ways kind of like this off of the side. It's going to be the perfect place to mount corals later on when I get the structure done. So this is also pretty important too. Even if you're not going to bleach bath your rocks, if you think they're pretty clean, you need to do a good rinse on the rocks. If I take a look at that right there, which is out of focus, but there's already trash in this water in this drum. So definitely at least always rinse your rock. But doing this will make sure they're absolutely perfect. All right, well, now that we've got the circulation established with the pump going, it's time to add the bleach. Always make sure you're using proper PPE, like chemical resistant gloves and a respirator and eye protection. This is a chemical. Even though it's something that we use all the time in our homes, we need to be careful with this. But we're just going to go ahead and put this in here. Now, the general rule of thumb is always that you add acid to water. You never want to put the bleach in the drum and then start filling it up with water. It has the potential to splash all over the place and just not be a good time. Another very important tip that you want to use or want to keep in mind is that you do not want to use any sort of scented or low splash bleach or anything like that. You want to use just plain, old, regular bleach. You know, and the reason behind that is probably pretty obvious, but the low splash bleaches have thickening agents in them that make the viscosity of the fluid a little bit thicker so that they don't splash. But it's kind of like a dish soap type of material, and you really just don't want that soaking into your rocks over the next few days. And in just a minute, we're going to talk about time frames that you want to let this run for based on your goals. And that is the last of 3 gallons of bleach that are going to go in here. This is roughly about 40 gallons of water. But like I said, my rocks are pretty clean, so I don't have to go super heavy on this, and I'm not going to go for a very long time. So let's talk about it. All right, well, everything is in the drum, water's moving, bleach is in, and everything is looking good. So time frames for leaving the rock in the drums. You can do this for up to a week before you drain it, fill it back up, rinse it, check it, do it again. This water is going to probably be pretty nasty if the rocks that you have are particularly gross, but mine are pretty clean. So I'm only going to be running this for 24 hours, maybe 36. I might try to clean this out tomorrow afternoon once it gets cool in the evening. But that's only because my rocks are so clean. If yours are much dirtier, you're going to have to do this for much longer. And then once you feel like you're done, you're going to drain the water out, refill it back up with tap water, let it rinse for about a good 24 hours, right? Then you're going to drain that water off and you're going to fill it back up with RODI water. Now, this is going to be a little bit of an expensive part because you're going to be using a lot of RODI water for this. But what you're going to be looking for is after those rocks sit in there for 24, 36 hours, you're going to test that water for phosphates. And if there are any phosphates present, it means the rock is still leaching organics and stuff off, and you might have to go back and do another slight bleach bath. Or you can get away with just doing a bunch of rinses and refills with the rocks. The point is, you want to keep doing this process until you're not registering any phosphates on your test kit anymore. And then at that point, you want to take the rocks out of the bath and let them air dry for at least a week. Now you can tell this is not a quick process. But for me and my purposes here, being able to give you guys the videos at the times that you need them, I'm going to have to rush this. So I'm not recommending that you do this in the time frame that I'm going to be doing it. I'm going to be doing some other stuff that people usually don't do, like putting a fan inside the drum, maybe even with a little bit of heat to really dry these rocks out quickly. And that's not something that I recommend that you do. I would recommend that you just let them air dry naturally. That part of the process is going to off-gas any chlorine that's left from the bleach. And once that's all done, after a week or so, you're ready to set up the rockscape in your tank. Now, I'm really hoping that I can get this done in the next week because the video coming after this one, we are going to start building the bonsai rock structure in my 210 gallon. And that's probably going to be a good video. So make sure you watch that. But in the meantime, watch this one up on the screen right here. I think you're going to find that pretty interesting. And check out my playlist on the 22-gallon sea cardinal. We just got our first inhabitants into that tank. I'll see you over there.